Hi, folks. It's Keith, Victor Echo 3 Sierra Victor Quebec, and sometimes Victor Alpha 3 Kilo Echo India up in Ottawa, Ontario. And we're here with another video, which hopefully will help a few people out. And I want to say when I make these videos, one of the reasons I do them is I look at what have I gone through, what bothered me this week or last week and how would that impact somebody else who is new trying to learn how to do this stuff? And from that usually comes a video. So a lot of the videos you see that I've put together, I think there's some 30 mainly for new Morse code people. They're all things I've gone through. And in some cases, it could be something I went through yesterday and I go, that'll make a good video. So that's how these all come about. That's how this one's come about as well. And I would like to add very quickly, a thank you to those people who do write and send an email and say, that video you did on this made all the difference in the world for me. I enjoy reading those emails and I enjoy answering them. And it's also very motivating on my side to get those. So, as an example, in the last 3 days, I've had one from Europe, one from the States, and one this morning from Australia. So, you never know where these YouTube videos go or who's watching them. So, what I want to do on this point is focus on the person who has been studying probably on their own. A lot of these go to people on their own because you're working in isolation and you're not, following a real course. So, this is something that probably will mean more to them than people who are in a class and doing a class, but it's still going to be an issue for everybody. And it was an issue for me when I started this back 6 months or so ago, 7 months ago, when I was getting ready to get on the air and so on. When you learn and you're learning your letters, your numbers, your prosigns, your commas and all this type of stuff, one of the best ways to do it is to learn ICR, right? Instant character recognition. Because the whole idea here is that you hear the sound and you instantly know what that letter is. That's the purpose of ICR. The problem with many of the sites out there, and especially with a lot of the apps that I hear people in various Facebook groups and so on say, well, we use this app and so on. In almost all the cases, these apps are sending you stuff one letter at a time. And I'm going to show you some of this as we go through. So that's a habit that a lot of us get into is listening to an individual letter in isolation. And again, the idea here is you recognize that letter instantly. You don't memorize dits and das. And if you're doing that, if you've got a chart, you have to toss that away because that will put an extra step between your ear and your brain and thinking the letter. You don't need to do that. And you'll see what happens to people who do that. You end up trying to figure out what how many dits and das was. And I still got caught doing that because that's the way I was taught many years ago. So in the real world, you have to be able to identify groups of letters that are coming at you, especially when you're starting off, you're not doing head copy, you're writing them down. So you have to be, you send one letter, well, that's pretty easy to identify and write it down. What happens if they send 4 or 5 letters? They send you a word. If it's at a speed that you can copy, maybe you can copy it down. But when you first start, it's very different than listening to an individual letter sent in isolation and then trying to think of what letter it was. So that's what I want to demonstrate today. One step up from listening to individual letters, listening to strings of letters. And again, one of the ways to do this, besides what I'm going to show you, listening to real Morse code on the air, not computer generated code. That's 100% good copy. Find stations on the air where you can sit and simply listen and try and copy them. Get some of the ones that are slow enough. And I did a video which gives a few ideas as to where you can find people sending slower speed code. But you need to do that. You need to practice that part as well. So what I'm going to use today, I'm going to be using the Long Island CW Club practice page. You'll see it. It's an excellent page. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I'm one of those people who, before I went and joined the LICW, I was using all sorts of other apps, practice pages, and there are some good practice pages, but I don't find any that can beat this one. Now, they do offer it for free. It's on their main web page. You look up in the top right corner and you can click and it'll open up for you and you can use the page. Now, if you're going to do that anyways, why not also click on the calendar that they have there and see everything that's offered? Because they're not just about teaching Morse code. They also have so many other activities. You know, there's antenna groups, there's all sorts. There's people who like POTA, SOTA, all sorts of different activities. So look at the calendar, see what's there. I mean, they're not expensive to join. It's about $30 US a year, $100 for a lifetime membership. You know, I started with the 30 and said, this is too much fun. So I actually took out the lifetime. It's all done by Zoom. So when I teach a class, I have, as an example, I've had people from India in my class, Malta, two or three Europeans, a bunch of Americans, a couple of Canadians. You never know who's going to be in your class. And it's a lot of fun. And it's, you know, it doesn't matter where you live in the world. They probably have a class that will help you out, or, and even if you no longer need classes, there's might be activities there that you'll find interesting. So here we go. I'm going to use this, going to flip into this particular page. I gather when I was listening to it, some of the computer voices don't come out crystal clear. That's just a setup, but I think you'll get the idea. So move from individual letters to groups or words, and Morse Code Ninja is another one who has a lot of words and so on that he sends that you can practice. So let's go. Let's see what's happening. Now, just before I start this next section, I want to point out the LICW with their courses, their beginners class, the level 1 BC1, they cover 18 letters, which are the 18 letters which are the most common that people use in various aspects of Morse code. And they begin that at basically a character speed of 12 words per minute and the effective word speed at 8. Now they picked the 12 because that's the point where people stop counting dits and daws. So if you're one of those people who goes, well, you know, there's a daw, did a dit, oh, that's a B, you know, because I heard the daw and three dits. So if you're one of those, 12 is the point where most people can no longer do that. So you're now really listening to the sound. You're not counting dits and daws. Now they're BC1, level 1, will last 6 weeks. It'll give you those 18 letters. The level 2, and incidentally, when you're doing the level 1, by the time you're finished that, you're probably going to be, you know, pretty good at copying 12 and 10. Then their level 2 class will start off with the 12 and 10, and by the time you're finished that, which is about 9 weeks roughly, somewhere in there, then at that point you're going to be pretty close to 12 and 12. So if you're brand new and you're doing this on your own, keep that in mind. The magic speed for the characters is 12 and whatever you can do. And then if the word speed you can work on. So again, lots of fun, and obviously requires lots of practice, but you can do it. There's lots of us have. So here we go. All right, so what we have here is the Long Island TW Club practice page, and I want to show you what I'm talking about. So you come in as a student, BC2, which is the second level, and I like to use this one when I practice because it's got a Q, an X, and a V, and my call sign has two V's and a Q in it, so it's good practice for me to hear those letters. Then I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to look. So here's the BC1. So these are all the beginner letters, the 18 that we study in the first level. So I'm going to go down here to maybe let's say this one and take one that's got a mixture of numbers and letters and so on in it. Then I'm going to go over to ICR, instant character recognition. Now you'll notice at the top of the screen here, it's at 14 and 14. That's the speed that the letters are coming at you, and that's your word speed. So if you want to fool around with this a little bit, you can click that, leave that at 14, or you can even lower it to 12 if that's the speed you're at, and you might be able to move it up, let's say 18 to 14. And if that's the case, then it's going to sound something like this.
K, T,
right, so that's your ICR. That is basically, it's a beat the computer game. So you hear the letter, then you have to say what that letter is before the computer says it. So it's great practice at recognizing the sound of that individual letter. Now, the problem that I see with some people is that's all they do. All right, they just do those individual letters. What you've got to do is try and get used to letters coming one after another at that particular speed. So it's great to isolate the letter and learn the sound. But here's an example. Now let's take that same group of letters and let's do a group of five. And you'll see what I mean. You've got to be able to do several letters at once. So this is what it sounds like now. All right, big difference, right? Big difference between isolating one letter and learning to listen for a string of letters. And again, the key in this is if you don't recognize a letter, don't pause to think about it because the computer is still sending, and on the air, it would be a real person still sending. And I actually checked this on myself the other day. I was on, and I don't know, I was messing up a few things. So I would hear a letter and I'd go, geez, what was that? In the meantime, the guy was still sending. We were doing 12 words a minute. And when it was over, we were doing sentences. I went back and I counted how many letters had I missed by pausing to try and figure out that one letter that I missed. And it was 12. So I missed 12 letters in a sentence that was being sent to me. Now I knew what he was sending because it was part of a protocol. But it goes to show you, you just can't do those letters in isolation, which is the point of what I'm trying to make here. Now, again, that's sort of, that's fairly fast. If you're relatively new to Morse code, you don't have to do anything fast like that. You might actually frustrate yourself. So if we go back and we look again, ICR as an example. So I'm going to go back up here to the ICR pipe. Now, just listening to it, I understand some of the computer verbalizing where the computer is saying the word. You may not hear clearly, but that's the computer saying what it is. So let's say you're just starting off and maybe you've just got on the air, could be studying on your own. So let's change it. There we go, 12 and 12. So this is where a lot of people get on the air, somewhere around that speed. So if we go back and we do the same exercise again, and you'll hear it'll be a little bit slower, but it'll give you an idea. So if you're newer, you can do the same exercise, just a little slower speed. So here it goes again. Always a little pause before it kicks in.
O C K U I.
So again, you can see you have that pause, you have that space, and that does give you a chance to sort of isolate that letter and say, okay, that was an A. But again, the trick is to do it instantly so that the moment you hear that sound, just like when I'm talking to you. So if I say the letter U, you instantly know what I said. That's how fast you have to get with your Morse code letters. It has to become just second nature to you. So again, that was easy to copy most of that. So let's say do the same thing, groups of five now, but at that speed. All right, so here we go. Again, a little pause. Now, if you're a new person, try writing this down. And again, this is 12 words per minute. All right, so again, big difference, right, between listening to one letter and listening to a string of letters. Now, some people like me, when I first did Morse code, when I came back to doing Morse code, I guess about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was used to very fast letters. So in my case, it might have been 10, but I would have jacked this up somewhere around, let's say 20, and then it would sound something like this. Now you see it's deceptive when you do it the other way because now that's with a string of letters coming at you, right? So there's a difference when there's a string of letters. If we're doing it with ICR at that speed, you can probably pick the letters out.
S, none, P, D, A, B.
There you go. Interesting, right? Because now you're beginning to realize you just can't hear letters in isolation. You have to learn how to copy a word, a group of letters, whatever's coming at you. Now, this is harder because it's random. If someone was sending a sentence, it would be a little bit easier. Now, I just want to add again, full disclosure, I do teach for the LICW, which is why I want to discuss some of what they do. Their program is exceptionally well researched and studied. Other clubs have different speeds, different systems that they teach, and that's fine too. It's whatever works for you as the individual. We have in LICW, we have the character speeds and word speeds that we use because they feel that's what will get you on the air fairly quickly. Other clubs and other websites have different numbers. For instance, when I started, it was one of the free sites. They recommended character speed of 20, word speed of 15. That's what I started with. All right. One of the advantages to this particular practice page is you can change that. So if you've been doing at different speeds, you can come in and change it here. But again, it's what works for you. Some people can get on, go through all the letters, all the numbers, and get on the air. Who knows? Let's say 16 weeks. It might take you 45 weeks. Who cares? It's that you actually did it. We all learn at different speeds. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to learn it. As long as you're having fun doing it, you're enjoying doing it, and you will get there. It's like listening here today. You listen to that string of 5 characters coming in. Oh, wow, that's really difficult. I'll tell you what, the first time I did it, yeah, I said, wow, just about freaked out. Wow, 5 characters in a row, that's really hard to do. It took my ear about, I'm going to say 3, maybe 4 days. And then it was somebody flipped a switch in my brain. And all of a sudden, copying down 5 characters coming at me in a row really wasn't a big deal. You just have to stick through it. Don't get discouraged. You can do it. And like I said, it doesn't matter how long it takes you to do it. You will eventually. And then you're going to have an awful lot of fun. Then we have to get you on the air, of course. Anyways, it is fun. So that's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed this one. And if you're new and you just got on the air, we'll look at that one as well down the road, as to see, maybe offer another video to help you out. And if you're still studying, just know you can do it. And we all did it. We're on the air. You can do it. You can get on the air too. It's Keith, Victor Echo 3, Sierra Victor, Quebec, also known as the Shaky Key. Have a wonderful day. Practice. Look forward to chatting with you on the air one day. 73.